I just saw Tim Moran's most recent video where he acquired, I think, a trade that collected Matt Wagner's Grendel's Devil Child 1 and 2. I certainly admire Tim's wide taste in books. It's much broader than mine. I don't know how he's able to go through so many books, but I'm always intrigued by what he's reading and what he thinks about him. And he's surely one of the few people that I've come across over the decades who likes Grendel. And I'm glad that he's been an advocate of the book. I just want to add my own thoughts on this to this book here. I first encountered Grendel in the pages of Mage. Mage was published in the early 80s, maybe 84, 85, closer to the mid 80s. And Matt Wagner wrote and drew it. And you can see it's a very beautiful book. However, at the end of the book, he had a character, and this character was called Grendel, which he also wrote and drew. And whenever I picked up Mage, this was what I went and read first. Now, mind you, this is the 80s, early 80s. And what you had here is you had the hero as a villain. A man who is a mobster, basically. A mafioso. And he's ruthless. He assassinates people left and right. And he's the hero of the story. And in the last, 10, 15 years, at least on television, you have The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, which just ended, where you have the leads as being, at best, very morally questionable characters. Or in the case of The Sopranos, we know what they are. But in comic books at the time, this was unusual, and of course, these were the independents. Like this is Comico, for example. And you also had Dave Sim's Cerebus. First Comics had American Flag. And I think Vortex published Dean Martin, Mr. X. And they're the heroes of the story. Again, were morally questionable characters. But certainly Grendel is the most fascinating, at least I think, at least in my opinion. And I would even say that it's possible that many comic creators of the present generation were influenced by this. People like him and even Alan Moore's Miracle Man, which was published in Warrior Magazine in the early 80s, and then later on by Eclipse. And which, again, has the hero as just morally ambiguous. But back to Grendel, though. I read these, and I was just struck by it. And I mean, you have Grendel, who is got the flavor of James Bond, Doc Savage, Bruce Wayne, The Shadow, and also Lucifer. And I must say, more Lucifer than all the others. And this trade collects the Mage storyline, which appeared in Mage. And this one has an introduction by Alan Moore, who's published in 1986. And the artwork looks a lot like the current comic Deadly Class. And I don't know if the artist was influenced by Wagner, but it seems to be rather similar. And Grendel, in this story, assassinates a man, and the man has a niece, and that niece is the girl from Devil Child. And this young girl, in the end, will witness what happens to Grendel, and in a way, she leads to his downfall. And in the opening pages of this book, you have her grown up and recovering in a mental ward where she's getting therapy. The Grendel stories basically do not have a very happy ending. They're pretty ruthless. And anyone who comes in contact with them does not have a happy ending. These two were written by Diana Schutz and drawn by Tim Sale, as if you watched Tim's video, you're aware of. And I think these may be the best non-Mad Wagner Grendels ever written. So, in order to understand this book a little better, I suggest you pick up either the trade, Devil by Deed, or Mage, the series within trade and in singles, and still rather inexpensive. But over the past 20 or so years, whenever I reread comic books, this is one that I've read and reread many times. It's unique even to this day, because again it predates the anti-hero as hero, which is now the norm. It's been the norm for a while now. But one of the first was Matt Wagner's Grendel. And thank you, Tim, for bringing this to my attention again.